Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another edition of After the Buzzer. I am your host, Couper Moorhead, and we are talking about the Miami Heat's second loss in a row. This one, 121-115 to the Milwaukee Bucks in overtime. That was a game and a half. It's a fun game, exciting game. Tough down the stretch at the end. Great analysis. I know that's what we do here. But look, we're going to analyze this one because that's what we do. There's always something interesting to say and talk about and see and find out about in every game. But generally speaking, just to all the fans out there, I know games like this are frustrating, and it's easy to want to play the blame game and say, this guy could have done that guy could have done that, coach should have done this, what have you. You don't have to do that after every loss. It's okay. As frustrating as they are, these last two against both Memphis and Milwaukee, yeah, there's stuff guys could do better, but sometimes you just lose when you're playing well. Sometimes you just get beat, and that's really what these last two games have felt like, which is probably why Eric Spoelstra has been somewhat upbeat, considering they've been losses. He's been upbeat, or at least positive, just like he was positive many times during the 10-game losing streak, because he feels like there's good things happening, and there were good things happening tonight, even with Tyler Hero not available and the team having to do a lot of different things, guys stepping up into different roles. They just got beat. It's tough because of what it means for the standings and the play-in tournament, but there are worse things than getting beat when you're playing well. Let's go down to the stretch here. We'll talk about the guys who stepped up in a bit, but just in terms of the Bucks offense and the late game, look, Miami was up 7 with 3 minutes to go. They had the game kind of in hand. You felt good about them closing it out. Eric Spoelstra said post-game he felt good about them closing it out, even though it didn't happen. But after they go up 7, here's what happened. There's a Brook Lopez layup, Kevin Porter Jr. 3, back and forth with free throws a little bit. Then you go Lopez dunk, Lopez layup. Then in overtime, you have down the stretch a Kevin Porter Jr. offensive rebound put back at the rim. Giannis scores in transition off a wild back and forth, bouncy, everywhere, loose ball, 50-50 ball sequence. And then you get a Kevin Porter Jr. layup when he splits a pick and roll and gets to the rim. I only said the words Giannis there one time, right? The word Giannis. He got them there. He got them in position to have a chance at the end. He had 36 points on 21 shots. He played a typical Giannis game with Damian Lillard out. He's been out for a couple weeks. They've been playing a lot of Giannis at point. But it was the paint buckets. Other than that late Porter Jr. 3, it was the paint buckets by Lopez and Porter Jr. that kind of turned the tide and ended up handing Milwaukee the game. So, I mentioned Giannis running point. That's kind of been their offense, right? Ball in Giannis's hands, have shooters around him, let him spray the ball out. He had 20 assists just this week. That's been their offense. A lot of sprays from Giannis because he can get downhill against pretty much anybody. But tonight the Heat held them to just 24 attempts from 3. That's a really good night considering the way Milwaukee wants to play. The problem is, even though you have a good night of work in limiting Milwaukee shooters and holding them to tough shots, to limited shots, then you also give up 66 in the paint. That's where you get beat. We've said it time and time again, even with the extra 5 minutes of overtime, 66 points in the paint. It's a lot of points. That is not what Miami's defense is designed to do. If you're giving up those points in the paint to Giannis, that's one thing. If he's brute forcing his way in, muscling guys out, doing his thing, you'll live with a little bit of that. But it was, Brook Lopez getting in for cuts and lobs and, finding open spaces where he can be a target. It's Kevin Porter Jr. getting to the rim or getting an offensive rebound. Those are the plays where, that's what turned the game in the end. So, look, none of it's awful or anything. That's just what happened. The good news was, as this happened over the years, over and over and over again, when the Heat are limited in their shot creators, Bam Adebayo steps up. He is aggressive. He looks for his own offense, knowing that the team needs someone who can just create some offense. Tonight he had 15 points in the first 8 minutes of the game. But there's always that balance, How much can he create his own offense? Whereas, look, this Heat team is a little limited in terms of, ball handlers, right? You have Davion Mitchell coming off the bench, but with Tyler Hero out, they just need guys to handle the ball. You have Bam playing some point Bam tonight, but even beyond Bam bringing the ball up, they just need him to be the fulcrum, to be the engine, to be the hub, to get everybody else open, to get Alec Burks open, to get Duncan Robinson shots, to get these guys going downhill, Pelle Larsson. So there's always that tough balance between Bam and tonight, even when he was going after his own offense. He's trying to score on Brook Lopez. He's trying to score on Giannis. This is not easy stuff. He did it really well, but the team needs him to do the other stuff for everybody else. So he starts out really aggressive, but then he sort of settles into his playmaking role for everybody else before getting, trying to look for his own offense a little bit down the stretch. Maybe he could have hit a couple more. He had a turnover, but, by and large, he played a really good game. It's just that balance in a game like this is really fraught between his own offense and between others. And I want you to hear in his words the way he described it, because I thought he used some interesting words post-game in the locker room. Here's what Bam said.
You battle that game to game. Me personally, I battle that game to game. Sometimes it's dribble handoff, sometimes it's go be aggressive. Biggest thing coach wants is ball movement. So you try not to play one-on-one as much, even though you got it going, but also you don't want to be non-aggressive.
Now, I had somebody ask me tonight, is what Alec Burks is doing a surprise? And, yeah, to some degree, anybody hitting a lot of shots is a surprise. But this is what Alec Burks does. This is his career. He's made it out of being he's a great shooter. He's always been a great shooter. He will step in when a team needs offense. He can create some offense for himself. He had a really cool late offensive rebound putback jumper that, gave the Heat a momentary breathing room. Burks is just a tried and true veteran. None of it's a surprise from him. But credit to him for, again, staying ready. We've said it all year long. He keeps stepping in. He keeps making shots when the Heat need it. Davion Mitchell is a little bit of a surprise just in terms of how he's been able to up his offensive usage. He's been really good in the last couple of weeks, taking guys off the dribble, getting to the rim. He's really hard. He's not big, but he's strong. And if he gets a shoulder on you, he can create just enough space to get a shot off or a floater. It's tempting to say in a game like this, yeah, you win if you have Tyler Hero. And by the way, Milwaukee fans would probably say, yeah, it's less of a game if you have Damian Lillard. But it's tempting to say you win if you have Tyler. But you also got a facsimile of Tyler's production from Burks and Mitchell. Burks had 24 points. Mitchell had 20 points. You got some really good minutes from Kyle Anderson. Duncan Robinson had really some typical Duncan Robinson minutes coming off Bam handoffs, scoring 16 points. You got enough offense from everybody else. Yes, Tyler might have changed the way the entire game looks, but for one game, they kind of were able to borrow the Moneyball term, recreate Tyler Hero in the aggregate. So it's not as easy as just saying you have him, then you win, because other guys stepped up and played well. They also were on a bit of a heater. When the Heat are shorthanded, they tend to up their three-point shot volume. Just threes are the great equalizer when you're a little shorthanded on shot creators. That makes a lot of sense. They didn't make a ton of their threes, but they shot 46, which is high for this group. But where they were on a different kind of heater too, where they were making a ton of mid-range, ton of floaters, ton of runners, ton of those upper paint shots that aren't in the restricted area. They were 17 of 35 on those. So, they found offense. They found gaps. They were able to attack Milwaukee's drop coverage, which Davion Mitchell called out post-game. He knew that coverage was going to be there coming into the game. He knew there would be space to hit his runners and floaters. He got to those. And at the end of the day, I just want to point out, the game was it would have been really tough to win at that point with 10 seconds left, down 4. But the Heat ran one of those spread football play inbound sets to try and create a three for Duncan. Ended up being a turnover. But credit Milwaukee there. That's good scouting. They were ready for that. They played it well, even though they were drawn out. They left basically Miami's entire side of the floor open. They in some terms you could say they took the bait, but they didn't because they knew what they were doing. And they just covered it well. They switched well. They stayed with their guys. So credit Milwaukee for that, for some good scouting. That's the game. Look, Miami played well, and you lose. It hurts in the standings because they're back to number 10. it was looking encouraging for a couple games there when they were on their winning streak that they might be able to get back up to 7-8. That's still possible. It's complicated because Orlando and Atlanta still have to play each other a couple times. Miami is a game back in the loss column of Chicago. So even if Miami beats Chicago, which is the biggest game of the season left on the docket by far, they're still going to need Chicago to lose another game somewhere else. And things get really complicated with who's playing for who on what night, down the stretch. So we'll see. But the Heat, unfortunately, are in a place where they are going to need some help. That's all for now. There's only so many games left, but there's a lot of season left. There's a lot more to talk about, and we will be with you every step of the way here on After the Buzzer. Until then, take care, good night, and have a good one.